Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the news briefing for this Wednesday. Residents who live in certain areas of Monterey County will receive emergency test messages later this month as the county tests a new alert and warning software and system. There are several targeted areas for this test, and we have staff from our Department of Emergency Management here to talk about what the test is and also a little bit about the system and why we're doing this. And we'd like to start with our director, Kelsey Scanlon, and she also has staff with her to assist.
Thank you so much, Maya. So we're actually really excited about this opportunity to test the emergency alert system. Can you see my screen? Cool. All right. There's a transition. Sorry, I didn't know that was in there. So the County of Monterey Department of Emergency Management has the authority and responsibility to disseminate emergency alerts that protect life and property. And so part of the reason why we're testing this is that we're transitioning to a new system. So we're migrating away from our previous software vendor known as Everbridge and moving towards a platform known as GEMS, and it's operated and owned by Genesis. They are also the same company that owns Zonehaven, which is fairly commonly known for its a evacuation tool, essentially. And so we are testing the system functionality, making sure it works, making sure it meets all of our needs for effectively doing our job to disseminate life safety messaging, but also ensuring that we can maintain the system moving forward. And so our hope is that we'll be able to test the iPause wireless emergency alert capability, which is pretty broadly geo-targeted. It's most commonly known as an Amber Alert, but it's the same concept, meaning it's a push notification to your phone. Reverse 911, meaning you have to opt in and provide your information based on a physical address. An SMS keyword, meaning you can opt into a text message system to receive generic messaging about road closures, wildfires, etc. And desktop alerting, meaning desktops that are connected to an internal alerting system to push notifications to the desktop. So we are testing different capabilities, different days, but it begins Monday, November 27th, 2023 in Moss Landing Harbor, and I'll talk about each of these locations. Monday, November 27th will also be our test at COCMB, and then on Tuesday, the 28th, we'll test the alerting system in the communities of unincorporated Monterey County, San Ardo and Carmel Valley. And then Thursday, November 30th, we'll be testing in the unincorporated community of Pajaro. And on Friday, December 7th, we'll be testing in the incorporated jurisdiction of the city of Monterey. In total, there will be 7 exercises throughout the duration of the week, starting at 10 a.m. each day. We'll be testing, as I said before, the reverse 911 capability, the SMS keyword capability, existing member portal registrants, and the iPause WIA. In Moss Landing, we're really looking at the Live Aboard database that we have to ensure that they are communicated with adequately. We anticipate that this will reach approximately 62 people. We will not be testing, obviously, the desktop alerting, social media, a phone call, or the iPause WIA. This is a fairly controlled environment, and we don't anticipate alerting beyond this particular population of 62 people. We will also be testing CSUMB that day, and we anticipate that approximately 5 people will receive this notification, and this is testing the desktop alerting capability at the university. This is where things get interesting from my perspective. In San Ardo, we will be testing the social media component, the SMS text message, a phone call, and the iPause WIA capability. We anticipate that likely, we will see alerting beyond the intended 392 people, but people within an 11-mile radius could potentially be alerted beyond our intention of the 392. Additionally, we will be testing in the Carmel Valley for this particular range close to the village. This will begin at 9 a.m. And again, this is a social media message, an SMS text message, a phone call, and an iPause WIA message. And we do anticipate that this will alert beyond the intended 3,631 people. On Thursday, November 30th, we will be testing in the unincorporated community of Pajaro, and we will be testing the social media component, SMS text messaging, phone call, and an iPause WIA. The intended population is, 4,410 people, though we anticipate this will also be significantly over alerted, and there might be impacts in the community of Watsonville and the surrounding areas. And then Thursday, December 7th at 10 a.m., we'll be testing the social media component, the SMS text message component, phone call, and iPause WIA. And our intention is to only alert 5,921 people, but much like the other three jurisdictions, we anticipate this will alert far beyond this intended population. So the alert language that will be disseminated is pretty standard. It will say, this is a test of the Alert Monterey County Emergency Notification System. Please confirm receipt of the test alert here with a link to a survey. The voice phone call will be a bit more extensive as we have more ability to include more information and we're not limited by characters. But it will very clearly state this is not an emergency. You do not need to take action and that this is merely a test. And then in each message, there is an opportunity to participate in a survey, which helps us gather geo-targeted data, meaning did you receive the emergency alert outside of our intended alerting area? And it's extremely important for people to help us with this data collection. Without participation in the survey, we'll have a very difficult time understanding the breadth of what the emergency alert has messaged. There's a web page, and this includes the dates, times, locations, capability that's tested. It also includes a super fun map where you can type in your address to see if you are in the intended alerting area or if you fall outside of that area and in the bleed over, essentially is what we call it. Though I realize that's mildly graphic in this particular instance. We'll have to find a new term for that. So how can you participate? The WIA, you don't really get an option to participate unless you've turned off that opt-in option on your settings. And then also, as I said, if you get the emergency alert, please participate in the survey. It's very quick. It doesn't take a lot of information. We're not collecting any private data. We're just trying to get an understanding of when and where the messaging was disseminated. And then if you'd like to participate in the text message component, you can text MC test to 65513. And so with that, I will open it up for questions.
So if anyone has questions for Kelsey, please go ahead and ask them. We have some staff from DEM available to answer questions in Spanish, I understand. But while we're waiting for other people to ask, Kelsey, could you talk a little bit about, we have a system currently in place. What would be the value of moving to this new system?
Yeah, so the new system has actually two components. We got somewhat of a bundle package, if you will, of both the use of the emergency alert system GEMS and the use of the alerting, the evacuation tool Zone Haven. And so the two systems are fairly integrated, which provides us more functionality and more efficiency in disseminating emergency alerts and sharing the evacuation zone maps. And so the current emergency alert system, Everbridge, works just fine. We had some contract negotiations and felt that there was a better offer provided by the new system with more capability.
And so we've talked about how the public can participate, but we're doing all this outreach initially because we don't want people to be alarmed, because even though it says it's a test, when your phone goes off, you kind of get that, your blood pressure goes up a little bit.
Yes, and we all remember the incident in Hawaii a couple of years ago. And so we want to message this quite significantly leading up to the test so that no one is surprised, especially if they don't speak or read the languages that the message is disseminated in. And we also want to make sure that the messaging is clear that this, in the actual test alert, that this is not an emergency. And so between those two strategies for communication in advance and during, we're hoping that nobody is over alarmed or feels the need to take any protective action by testing the system.
The timing on this is also interesting because we are heading into winter season, and last season, winter season was something else. So I think this, are you hoping that letting people know that there's a new system with advanced capabilities can make people feel a little bit more secure, or feel more safe, that the messages that they want to get, they will be getting?
I don't want to encourage any false sense of security. I do want to be clear, regardless of the software system that we utilize, emergency alerts are not a silver bullet. They're not at the end all be all. If you feel your life is in danger, we encourage you to take action before receiving an emergency alert or before contacting, 911 per se. We always encourage people to have the information that they need to make critical decisions about their own life and safety. We also want to set expectation that we are still intending to contract with Everbridge while we make this transition, so that if there is a failure of the new alerting system, we have a backup capability to continue that mission critical function. And so, as I said, we always encourage preparedness. We always encourage people to collect as much information as they can to make decisions about their life and property. And we encourage people to prepare for all emergencies, regardless of the emergency alerting system. And with every winter, we are always concerned about flooding. And I think last year was a really stressful time for most of the county. And I imagine that this might be triggering for some people, especially those who lost property or who were evacuated for prolonged periods of time. So we encourage people to also continue to connect with recovery resources that may still be available. And so, like I said, yes, the system is great. We're very excited about this additional capability, but I don't want to create a false sense of security that this is the end all be all, because there is a lot of opportunity, not just for technical error, but for human error as well.
Are there any questions for Kelsey or from our Spanish language media? Any questions, any information you'd like to have in Spanish? I'm not seeing any hand raised, nobody shouting out. So it sounds like, thank you so much, all of you, for being here today and sharing it with us. And we'll be sending out, we've sent out the initial information. We'll be sending out more information as we get closer to the time. And I'm looking forward to getting all those alerts.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you all. On to our next topic. On Saturday, November 18th is International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. There is an event in Salinas that will give survivors the opportunity to gather with one another, residents who live near them, the neighbors, people that they may know, and know that they're not alone. We're very pleased to have Carly Memoli here to talk about this event and what people can expect on this day. Hi, Carly.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today and for giving us a few minutes to talk about this very important topic. For those who are new to this acronym, MCHOPES is our Monterey County Helping One Another Prevent and Eliminate Suicide Coalition. This group is a collection of professionals, service providers, community members, and folks who have personal experience with suicide loss, who've experienced suicide attempts, or individuals who have lost someone either close to them or in their community to suicide. This is an issue that touches so many of us. So even though we're talking about it in an informational capacity today, I want to remind everybody that help is available in our community and hope is very possible if you, like myself, have been touched by this in a personal way. One thing that I want to just note is the coalition is continuing to meet every other month, and we bring together information, resources. We also have 3 work groups that are implementing various areas of our community's suicide prevention strategic plan. And I have listed here on the slide our website for the coalition, which is a collaborative endeavor from Monterey County Behavioral Health and a number of partners in the community. I've also included an email address for our program there. I work with Applied Crisis Training and Consulting, and in addition to providing trainings on suicide prevention throughout the county, we also take the lead with implementing the coalition activities and supporting our partners. We'll go ahead and move us along. When I get to the end of the presentation, I will upload all of these handouts into the chat for you all in case anyone would like to have these in English and Spanish for your personal information or to share with others. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has been supporting local events around International Survivors of Loss Day for a very long time. And this Saturday, not only will we be meeting in Salinas, but around the state, around the country, and actually around the world, people will be coming together to share how they have grieved, how they are healing, and how they are finding hope in the face of suicide loss. This is one very important component of our approach to suicide prevention, intervention, and also a term that I'll introduce today called postvention, meaning how do we support individuals who have lost a loved one to suicide, and why is that important? The event itself will feature an opportunity to connect, to learn about local resources. We will also together watch a brand new half-an-hour documentary that was produced around Suicide Loss Survivors Day, and we will discuss and share experiences. We'll also offer an opportunity for community members to engage in some healing and remembrance activities, and just have a time to be together in a safe and supportive space. We will also have a couple of licensed mental health professionals on scene in case folks need more support or are looking to get connected to more robust services. I will go ahead and place, as I mentioned, the information in English and Spanish in the chat. We will have interpretation at the event, and the film that we'll be showing will be available in English and Spanish as well. I want to talk very briefly about why activities like this are such an important part of our work. A significant number of people exposed to suicide are known to have negative and long-term mental health consequences. To a certain extent, while a suicide event, a suicide death in the community may impact a small number of people in a very profound way, think of it a bit as a pebble dropped in a pond. Those ripples do extend out through the community, and sometimes the consequences can be lingering and can be devastating. We know that exposure to suicide can increase the risk of subsequent suicides among suicide loss survivors, and that the complicated grief and the stigma surrounding suicide can be devastating. What we also know is that an organized and an empathic response after a suicide has been demonstrated to mitigate some of these negative outcomes and reduce the risk of additional suicides. So in the context of our work, this is where we focus on something called postvention. Postvention is something we define as an organized and a purposeful or intentional response after a suicide death. It includes a very wide range of strategies, from collaboration with first responders and providing immediate on-scene support at the site of a loss, as well as to ongoing supports that may extend for days, months, or even years for long-term loss survivors. While approaches generally will vary in our communities, there are 3 really primary goals involved in postvention: to promote healing and support, to help mitigate some of the negative effects of exposure to suicide risk, and to prevent suicide amongst people who are higher at risk after exposure. You'll hear us use a term sometimes as survivors or suicide loss survivors. In our work, this is a term that we use to describe people who have had that experience. I myself am a suicide loss survivor, having lost my grandmother at a younger age, and then also a very close friend in high school. So for me, this is very close to home, as it is for many of those of us who are involved. As we've talked about very briefly, postvention is a form of upstream prevention. So providing this support for individuals who have lost someone to suicide equips them not only to cope with the grief and that loss itself, but additionally help sustain them in the times ahead, building coping behaviors, connecting to resources, and preventing isolation, which can be very life-threatening for individuals who are coping with loss. I also want to share that one of our work groups for the coalition is our postvention work group. We currently meet once a month, and I have listed here for you a couple of the goals and activities. Our work group is working hard to increase the number of community members and loss survivors who are aware of resources and have access to those. We also have put together, with strong leadership from Suicide Prevention Service, loss support packets in English and Spanish. This is an easily digestible, useful packet of information, tools, and resources that individuals can use to help navigate those early weeks and months after a suicide death. And the bigger, longer-term lift is to implement more robust programs that will help reduce the amount of time between when a suicide loss occurs and when comprehensive bereavement services can be provided. Earlier this year, we hosted an event in September called for Monterey County, and Monterey County Unites for Suicide Prevention. During that event, we used it as an opportunity to really ignite a call to action for our community. While suicide prevention activities have largely been facilitated by behavioral health or by a couple key agencies in the past, what we know is that having success in this area really depends on engaging the entire community. So starting at that event and continuing throughout the remainder of the year, including this weekend, we're encouraging all community members to identify ways that they can get involved and help. There are ways that you can complete what we call a caring card, just an anonymous card of support for someone who's had a loss, and we'll be completing those at our event. We also are encouraging and promoting community members to learn more about the resources, materials, and ways to help someone who's lost an individual to suicide. So as we're thinking about how individuals can help, these are some of the resources that we want to make sure people are aware of and have access to. There is a dedicated page on the Monterey County Behavioral Health website that lists these and other key resources that can be really powerful ways for someone to make meaning of what's happened, to find support, and to start to cope with the grieving process. Additionally, I wanted to speak briefly about some supports that are available through Suicide Prevention Service of the Central Coast, including support groups. Individuals who attend a support group with others who've lost loved ones to suicide really report that attending those groups can help to reduce how isolated they may feel, can help to create safety for them to explore and to express their feelings of grief, anger, confusion without judgment, which is really important. These groups also empower people to access the resources they need to both help themselves and then to be of help to others in their group, in their family, and their community. And really the primary goal here is for people to know that they're not alone in dealing with and recovering from this devastating loss, that they deserve support and that that support is available. Additionally, and I will upload all of these into the chat for folks that want more information, we would love if everyone in the community could become familiar with the local resources and information that can be provided. I think probably one of the hardest things for folks is when there is a suicide loss, we often don't know what to say, or we feel like I'm not sure what to do. And one of the best ways that we can help is being aware of what resources are available, becoming familiar enough with those that we could connect somebody with that support, or even reaching out ourselves to find out more. How do I learn how to be a good helper? How do I learn how to have those conversations with someone who's had such a devastating loss? I also want to acknowledge there are a tremendous amount of resources available through the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, including some of those that are listed here on the screen. There are a wide range of ways for people to access that support. Support groups are great, and also they're not for everybody. So while that might be one really important source of support, some people will also find, in addition to that, books or films that can be helpful sources of healing, guidelines for how to talk to children about suicide loss, and some practical guides to help people navigate not just the grieving components, but the practical considerations that so many people are not prepared for when we do lose a loved one to suicide. There is also a very powerful guide about how to have a real conversation. So, what to say and what not to say. We're trying to encourage community members to build their skills, to build their ability to have these conversations, because it's a really powerful way to make sure that individuals who've lost a loved one to suicide don't become isolated, and that they know that even though there's nothing we can say to fix it, that we are here for them and that they're not alone. I know that those were some of the most powerful responses that really helped me in my own grieving process. And so often it's not about knowing exactly what to say, it's about making sure the person knows that you're there. I want to just bring this up one more time to encourage folks to join us. We will be meeting at the United Way Makerspace in downtown Salinas. You can register for the event. You're also welcome to just show up if you like. And we will have some healing activities, a video that we'll be watching together, some supported and facilitated conversation, and some coffee and muffins, and just a good time to be together around something that can be painful, but can also represent powerful healing. And just want to thank you for your time today. I'll go ahead and pull down my PowerPoint now and share some of those handouts in the chat. I also encourage you to reach out if you have questions, and I'm happy to take any questions that folks might have.
Thank you so much, Carly, for what is really a thorough look at this. And if anyone has questions for Carly, they can put them in chat, or they can just shout out and ask a question. So while I'm looking for some questions, let me ask you a question. Much of what we know about suicide is prevention. We are trying to make it not happen. When did the focus broaden to look at the people around the person who's being affected, the person who may be committing the act? When did we start focusing on the family and the friends as far as needing support?
Really only, I would say, locally in the last maybe 10 years or so. And I would say the efforts led by Suicide Prevention Service and some of our other community partners have really pushed that forward. A lot of this really emerged because, the messaging around suicide prevention is often very geared towards, we're working for zero suicides and suicide is preventable. And while that's absolutely true, uh, we also know that people in our community have had suicide losses, and it may not be possible to prevent every single suicide. So, in conversations with individuals who have lost loved ones, they often felt like there wasn't a home for them in suicide prevention work, or they felt like they weren't included. We really have started to envision this more as suicide prevention work being this umbrella, or this almost like a three-legged stool, where we have prevention, we have intervention. So what do we do to support someone when they're in a crisis? And then postvention. How do we support somebody who has lost a loved one to suicide? And how do we as a community make sure that we are not letting those folks slip through the cracks? Part of it also came about because the suicide rate for individuals who've experienced a loss of someone close to them is so profoundly higher than for the general population, that as we take a public health approach to suicide prevention, we look at groups that are higher at risk, and suicide loss survivors absolutely are one of them. So those were some of the kind of motivating factors for really bringing this into the forefront and saying, this is an important area. It deserves attention and focus, and we need to bring together resources around this.
What if you also talk about giving people tools to help survivors? The idea of how to have a conversation, and then the caring card really rang a bell with me, because I may not have a conversation with somebody, but I would love to support somebody, and I just don't, I don't know how to do that.
Right. Absolutely. We borrowed the caring cards idea from an initiative that started in Marin County. And it's actually something that's been shown to be really effective, not only with survivors of loss, but with people who've recently survived a suicide attempt or who've been hospitalized for behavioral health care. And what we've seen is that it doesn't even have to be that that note or that message comes from somebody they know. So often what we'll do is out at community events, including the one this Saturday, we bring cards and also some guidelines for people to say, here's some things that you can say, and then also here's some things to avoid saying. We try not to promise people that their loved one is in a better place because we don't know that, but we want to let them know that they're not alone and that we care. And there have actually been a number of studies done showing how even something as small as that makes a really big impact. At our event in September, we also put together packets of these cards so that different organizations, workplaces, or schools could host a Caring Cards Day within their own organization. Take some time to write those messages, anonymous messages of support. And then currently what we're having folks do is send those in. And then we, along with the folks at Suicide Prevention Service, will make sure that those get included when we're sharing lost packets and resources in the community. So it's one way that everybody can make a difference, and just sharing, I care, you're not alone. I don't know exactly what you're going through right now, but I want you to know that you deserve support.
Any other questions for Carly on this subject? I'm not seeing anything in chat. Nobody's shouting out. Carly, thanks very much for sharing all this information, and we really hope for a great event on Saturday. And I'm going to be calling you for one of those caring cards. That one, that's a good one.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. And thank you to Karen Smith for putting in the chat as well some additional resources, including guidelines on reporting on suicide and suicide prevention. Thanks again.
Thank you. And now we're going to turn to the Thanksgiving celebration. Food plays a huge role in Thanksgiving celebrations and gatherings, but what is the best way to manage food if you are having people, if you're going to be with people, taking food places, having them come over? How do you manage the turkey or the charcuterie board? The county inspects restaurants for food safety, and we are going to share some of those same safety tips with you. We have Marni Flagg from our Environmental Health Bureau to talk a little bit about fun but food safe. Hi, Marni.
Hi, Matt. Thank you so much. I just want to welcome everyone to the top 5 Thanksgiving hazards, and also known as how to have a safe holiday, brought to you by your Environmental Health Bureau inspectors. So I'm just going to share 5 things this time that you want to keep in mind when you are hosting Thanksgiving. Number 1. The turkey, the crown jewel. Let's start there. Thawing your turkey in the refrigerator is the safest method because the turkey will defrost at a consistent, safe temperature. It will take about 24 hours for every 5 pounds of weight that you have on that big bird in the refrigerator. You have other alternatives as well. You can thaw in cold water, submerging the turkey in the original wrapper in cold water and changing that water about every 30 minutes. That method will take about 30 minutes a pound. So 30-30. For instructions on how to microwave defrost your turkey, you'll want to read the instructions in your manual. Cold water and the microwave thawing can be used if your turkey didn't defrost entirely in the refrigerator. Now, I'm not going to say I haven't seen this, because I have, but do not think of the outdoors as a refrigerator or a freezer. Even if that temperature is below 32 degrees, once the sun hits your food, it's heating up that turkey. So not outside, and also not on a counter. It's not an option. That's just inviting bacteria into your kitchen. So take note, if you haven't given yourself enough time to properly defrost your turkey, move your dinner to a later time and defrost the turkey properly. Preparation. One of the first things most people do when they unwrap their turkey to prepare it for cooking is rinse it in the sink. It may seem like you're rinsing away bacteria, but it's just the opposite. So if there's salmonella or any other bacteria on the turkey's surface, it would be killed during cooking. However, but if you rinse it, the bacteria will be all over the sink, all over the counter, and any other surfaces that are nearby, your plates, your utensils, other food. So don't rinse that turkey in the sink around your other work surfaces. And remember that after working with a raw turkey, you have to always wash the utensils and work surfaces and sanitize your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before you touch other food. That bacteria can spray up to 3 feet away if you're washing that turkey in the sink. So remember, keep your meat, chicken, turkey, seafood, eggs separate from all your other ready-to-eat foods. Prevent any juices that are coming from the raw meat and chicken from getting on salad materials or anything. Keep everything in sealed plastic and store eggs in their original carton in your refrigerator. So here's some pictures of that bacteria. We don't often get to see it up close and personal, but you have Salmonella, Clostridium, Campylobacter, and a lot of other germs. And so whether you're cooking an entire turkey or a whole bird, just remember to take special care to avoid these guys sitting at your Thanksgiving table. Cooking, number 3. Some turkeys come in with a handy pop-up timer. Take that out, forget about it, not reliable. You really need to secure a really good thermometer to determine the interior temperature of your turkey. Your turkey is not cooked, and therefore any fear of bacteria is not eliminated until the temperature in the thickest part of your bird reaches at least 165 degrees. And that's for your stuffing too. If you're cooking a turkey with stuffing in it, you need to make sure that that center stuffing gets at 165 or above. And when you remove the turkey from the oven, remove that stuffing as well. Don't let it sit in there. If it's cooked, take it out. Keep it warm someplace else. For optimal safety, you want to make sure that you reach that 165 and just take into account that when you remove the stuffing, the bird is still sitting, and you can leave the stuffing in a warm container in the oven on the side and keep it at 135. So you want to cook it to 165 and then keep everything above 135 once it's done cooking. Number 5, everyone's favorite, leftovers. We have to be very strategic with our leftovers. We want to keep our food out of those danger zone temperatures because that's when bacteria can grow very rapidly. They grow between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So refrigerate your leftovers at 40 degrees or colder as soon as possible within 2 hours of preparation to prevent food poisoning. And be sure to reheat all your leftovers to 165 and then hold them at 135. You want to keep hot food hot and cold food cold. So that's one of the really important rules to remember. If it's hot, it should always stay hot. And if it's cold, it should be cold. And just let those leftovers go. Let them go after 3 to 4 days. Don't keep them in the refrigerator. Don't keep making those turkey sandwiches. Just let them go. If you decide that you want to freeze some things, you have about 4 to 6 months on most of your holiday leftovers. So your final things to remember: wash your hands, use separate cutting boards, cook the turkey at about 325, but always make sure it gets to 165 internally, and store your leftovers within 2 hours or let them go. But the number one thing to take home from all of the Thanksgiving food safety: wash your hands. Always wash your hands. Number 1, before, during, and after prepping food, before eating your food, after touching your dog, after going to the restroom, after changing diapers, after touching garbage, after putting a Band-Aid on the cut from cutting the onions, after blowing your nose or sneezing. Wash your hands. wash your hands during the entire time that you're preparing your Thanksgiving. And I just want everyone to have happy eating with those thoughts. If you have any food safety questions at all or any concerns, give us a call, 755-4505. Ask for an inspector. You can ask for me, and we will be glad to help anyone with any food safety questions that they have.
Gosh, Marni, thanks for walking us through that, and let it go. What a great new phrase for leftovers. If we can borrow from the movie without having to pay any royalties for Thanksgiving leftovers. So if anyone has questions for Marni, go ahead and, raise your hand or put them in chat. Your number one thing you want people to remember is wash your hands. But in your experience, what is the number one mistake of all those hazards that you point out that Thanksgiving cooks make?
Well, Thanksgiving is notoriously in the top 3 most dangerous holidays and the most dangerous things. And I think the culprit of that is the cross-contamination. So not having that separation between the raw meat, the eggs, and all of those materials with your ready-to-eat fresh produce or your already prepared food, your rolls, that's just what normally happens. Is it's an accidental cross-contamination that people just aren't aware of.
Could you also just throw out some information about the whole appetizer, although I don't know why we do appetizers for Thanksgiving, because we're going to have a table that, usually is overloaded, but people put out, crackers, meats, cheeses, spreads, etc. What's a good rule of thumb for safety for those?
So keep in mind that 2-hour rule. If it's a food that's supposed to be cold or it's a food that's supposed to be hot, as soon as you set it out, you have about 2 hours to get it back up to temperature, or just to store it in the refrigerator to get it under that 40-degree mark. If it's an appetizer that is usually kept at room temperature, that's fine. You're fine with your crackers sitting out. You're fine with those products that can just hang out and everyone can graze, your chips, everything like that. But as soon as you bring out that dip or that meat platter, you have about 2 hours to enjoy your appetizers before you either need to reheat them or cool them back down.
Well, that may be a good way for people not to overeat before the main meal, right? You can give people 2 hours and say, oh, instead of saying putting the food back in the fridge, it's, we're cutting you off because turkey's coming out of the oven.
Yep, we're done. You're done with your appetizers. No more.
Any questions, any last questions for Marni before we let her go? Seeing none. Well, Marni, we know where to go to your house if we want to watch cooks in action, but we'll leave you on your own for Thanksgiving, and we won't tell if anything happens.
All right, that sounds good. I hope everyone has a wonderful day and enjoys that special family recipe that they always prepare.
Thanks, Marni, and thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing this week. Our next briefing is next week. We'll see you then.